It's hard to take your eyes off this video. A rocket bursts out of a small pipe a little more than a meter long, spreading wings that look like blades. The main engine turns on, it soars up, and a few seconds later it plunges into a powerful armored vehicle from above, blowing it to pieces. This is how the American third-generation Javelin portable anti-tank missile system works. Let's take a closer look at this truly unique weapon and see why the Javelin is hailed as a super weapon with virtually no flaws. What other anti-tank complex can show such an impressive result? Out of 112 shots, 100 hit the target. It was achieved by the Ukrainian military in the war with Russian troops. This record was even recognized by the Pentagon. Why this man-portable anti-tank missile system is considered the most effective solution for light infantry to stop the enemy's powerful armored fist. The development of FGM-148 Javelin portable anti-tank missile system started in 1986 to replace the M47 Dragon complex, which had been in service since 1975. The question immediately arises. M47 Dragon began to enter service in 1975, and after 11 years there was a need for a new complex. Why? The development cycle of modern weapons is very long. For instance, Javelin entered service only in 1996, but still, by that time the M47 Dragon had only been in use for 21 years, and hundreds of millions of dollars had been spent on its development. Therefore, there must be a very good reason to go for the replacement of this anti-tank complex. And there was such a reason. Dragon ceased to meet modern realities, and it was not possible to enhance its technical characteristics to meet new requirements. In the late 70s and early 80s, the main enemy of the United States, the Soviet Union, began to supply its troops with its latest T-72 and T-80 tanks, and their T-90 tank was already on the way, which at the beginning of the 2000s became the best-selling tank in the world. Against these machines, equipped with active protection systems and modern dynamic protection, the M47 Dragon was ineffective. Both American and NATO generals, who saw these thousands of the latest Soviet tanks, the threat of their swift throw across Europe to the English Channel seemed more than real. This threat needed to be countered. The FGM-148 Javelin portable anti-tank missile system was supposed to become one of the elements of Western countermeasures. The Army set the following basic requirements for the developers of the new anti-tank complex. First, to dramatically increase the survivability of the shooter on the battlefield. It was priority number 1. Second, the damage potential of the shaped charge must be sufficient to disable the latest and most promising Soviet tanks at a firing range of at least 2 kilometers in the daytime or at night. In addition, the complex was supposed to allow firing from the premises, and its command and launch block could be used to solve reconnaissance tasks. Now let's see how the developers were able to meet these fundamental requirements. But first, we should note that the development of the FGM-148 Javelin was difficult due to the high requirements for the complex. In total, in the course of work, several specialized state programs replaced each other, and the creation cost $5 billion. But in the end, it turned out to be a real weapon masterpiece. The Javelin complex includes 2 main elements, a command and launch unit, and a transport launch container with a guided missile. Before use, the block and the container are connected, after which preparations for launch and a shot are carried out. The empty disposable container is then discarded and replaced with a new one. The command and launch unit is a device with day and night optics and electronics for firing control. The main means of finding a target is a thermal imaging camera. A telescopic sight was originally used as an additional channel. During the next modernization in the early 10th years, it was replaced by a video camera. A sharp increase in the survivability of the operator of the complex was achieved by introducing the fire and forget principle. The operator only needs to aim at the target and shoot. After launch, the missile independently tracks the target and aims at it. Thanks to this, the unit gets the opportunity to quickly start preparing for the second shot, or leave the position before the retaliatory strike. It was the implementation of this principle that allowed the Javelin anti-tank complex to become a third-generation complex. In other similar systems, after the launch of an anti-tank missile, the operator had to continue to direct it to the target using wires or a laser beam, and this sharply reduced his survivability. After all, he revealed his position after the shot, since the enemy can easily determine the launch point and can strike at it. It is noteworthy that for a very long time, Javelin was the only third-generation anti-tank missile system in the world, and only recently in India, a similar system, NAG, was developed, also using the fire and forget principle. It is interesting that neither in China nor in Russia, that is, the most likely opponents of America, have third-generation complexes. In China, there is an HJ-73C anti-tank complex with a firing range of 3,000 meters in service. The rocket in it is controlled through wires. In Russia, in 1998, the Kornet complex was adopted, with a firing range of 5,500 meters. The control is carried out by a laser beam. True, it is worth adding that the Kornet was recently modified, and its range increased to 10 kilometers, but the fire-and-forget principle was not implemented. At the same time, the Javelin missile is resistant to electronic warfare, as it is controlled by an infrared homing head. The rocket is also resistant to various infrared traps thanks to the built-in electronic control unit. Before launch, the operator enters the image of the target into the missile's memory through the command launching device, and in flight, the image of the target is compared with the template entered into its memory. Therefore, even the use of infrared traps or camouflage on the battlefield against the background of some high-temperature object, for example a burning building, does not help, since the target does not visually change. The small weight of the Javelin complex also helps to increase the survivability of the operator. Its mass, together with the launch tube, command launch device, and the rocket itself, is only 22 kilograms. Therefore, although the firing unit consists of 2 people, you can work alone. Due to the small mass of the complex, the unit retains high mobility and can quickly move on the ground. A launch can be done even from a sitting or crouching position. For comparison, the Russian Kornet complex uses a special tripod for launching, and its weight is 26 kilograms. The difference seems insignificant, only 4 kilograms. But this is the case when quantity turns into quality. 2 people are required to service the Kornet, and you can't quickly run around the battlefield with a tripod. To improve efficiency, the designers implemented several measures. First, the missile has a tandem warhead. That is, it has 2 sequentially placed charges, the leading and the main one. Upon hitting the target, the leading charge is the first to detonate, ensuring the penetration of dynamic protection. The main charge burns through the armor and hits the crew. The Javelin is capable of penetrating modern armor up to 800 millimeters thick. Secondly, the feature of the complex is the possibility of hitting a target from above, where any armored vehicle has the least protection. After launch, the rocket at a speed of 190 meters per second gains a height of 150 meters and stays there while going to the target. Almost above the target, the missile goes into a steep dive and hits it. The Javelin also has a second fire mode. The missile rises to a height of 60 meters, and from there attacks the target in a downward straight line. As tests have shown, the probability of hitting the target is 96%. To ensure a safe launch indoors or in other cramped conditions, the Javelin uses an expelling charge that pushes the missile out of the tube, and its jet engine is activated when it flies away from the operator to a safe distance. The command launch unit can also be used independently as a means of reconnaissance and surveillance. It includes a 4x day sight and a passive infrared night sight with 4 to 9x magnification. Since the command launch unit is completely passive, it is not detected by electronic warfare. However, this block also has its limitations. It can be difficult to aim and search for targets at dawn and dusk, when twilight does not allow full use of the optical sight, and the difference in temperature between the target and the environment is minimal. In addition, the visibility of the target may be impaired by fires, burning equipment, and the use of smoke screens, but only if the latter use IR opaque compounds. Another disadvantage of the Javelin anti-tank complex is the need for liquid nitrogen vapor cooling before launching the infrared homing head. Therefore, after finding the target, the preparation time for launch is about 30 seconds. But in general, this is indeed the most advanced portable weapon against modern tanks and other armored or well-fortified targets. But this is all theory. And how did this tank killer prove itself in practice? By the time the Javelin appeared in the American Army, the United States had already won the Cold War from the USSR, and the West was not threatened by Russian tank attacks to the English Channel. But this new American invention was still able to work against Soviet technology in 2003 during the wars in Iraq. At that time, the United States could not send its troops to northern Iraq by land, and they dropped assault teams from the airborne and special forces. Therefore, they did not have heavy weapons, and this is where Javelin came to the rescue. In the battle on the Debeka Pass, several dozen soldiers of special forces destroyed an Iraqi mechanized company of more than 100 soldiers. The Americans at that moment had only 4 Javelin anti-tank systems. The operators fired 19 rockets, and 17 of them hit the targets, destroying 2 T-55 tanks, 8 MTLB armored personnel carriers, and several trucks. According to available information, all Javelin shots were fired at a range of 2,200 meters or more. That is, it was almost the maximum firing range. One hit was recorded at a distance of 4,200 meters. During the Iraq War, the Javelin managed to destroy several more tanks, including the Type 69 and T-72 tanks, called the Lion of Babylon. When the active phase of the conflict came to an end, Javelin complexes began to be used to destroy smaller targets with accurate fire. The high accuracy of the Javelin proved to be ideal for detecting and engaging targets at long ranges. With these missiles, American troops destroyed the heavy weapons units of militants, as well as their machine guns, rockets, recoilless rifles, and pickup trucks. Other types of weapons available to the infantry did not have such a combination of characteristics, as long range and high accuracy. But the sad irony of using the Javelin against enemy pickup trucks and machine guns is that one missile costs about $80,000, which is much more than the cost of the weapons systems they destroyed. There has also been criticism that the Javelin has shown its effectiveness only against obsolete tanks that do not have, for example, the Russian Relict-type dynamic defense system and infrared protection. But all these questions to Javelin were dropped after the start of the Russian-Ukrainian War. The Ukrainian army managed to receive hundreds of Javelin systems, and this immediately affected its effectiveness in confrontation with the second army in the world. According to official data, more than 400 modern Russian tanks have already been destroyed in 3 weeks of fighting, and most of them are on account of the Javelin. The Pentagon said that the Ukrainian army has set a record. Of the 112 Javelin rounds, 100 hit the target. Apparently, this complex handles modern Russian weaponry quite well. Also, questions about the high cost have disappeared. You might agree that $80,000 is many times less than $2 million. This is exactly the minimum cost of a modern Russian tank. What future can this great weapon have? After the Javelin anti-tank missile system entered service in 1996, it was repeatedly upgraded. Let's take a look at the 3 most important upgrades. Since the Javelin is used mainly to destroy weakly protected targets and structures, a new version of this complex with high-power ammunition was developed, which was named FGM-148F. Presumably, its new warhead is just as effective against tanks, and its cost is no higher than that of its predecessors. The ground forces also funded design and development work to create a lightweight command and launch unit. This new launch system is expected to be 70% smaller and halved in weight. Among its new features are upgraded electronics, a new laser designator, a high-resolution color camera, and infrared sensors with increased range and resolution. Finally, the new Javelin, which has recently been tested, has a range increase to 4.5 kilometers. This is very important, since the main argument in favor of keeping the proven old TOW in service is that this complex, mounted on a vehicle chassis, has a firing range of almost 5 kilometers. It looks like the long-range Javelin will outdo it. Currently, the development of mobile anti-tank Javelin systems is underway. In the 1990s, the ground forces conducted experiments by installing these complexes on the Bradley BMP, but then abandoned this project. However, the command recently announced that it intends to upgrade half of its Stryker armored fighting vehicles with Javelins. Previously, only specialized M1134 Stryker vehicles were equipped with TOW launchers, designed to deal with tanks. The desire to install effective anti-tank weapons on medium armored personnel carriers is a direct reflection of Russian efforts, as part of which Kornet anti-tank systems are being installed on Boomerang, Kurganets, and T-15 Armata vehicles. Javelin in this version is a more mobile weapon compared to the old TOW, since the launcher can leave the danger zone immediately after firing a shot. If such an upgrade is carried out, then even lighter American armored vehicles will be equipped with anti-tank weapons and will be able to deliver precision-guided missile strikes. By the way, it seems that the new Afghanet system on the hyped Russian Armata is unable to protect against Javelins, since its launch tubes are placed horizontally under the turret, so they cannot shoot vertically up. Although the TOW has lost its range advantage, it has an optical rather than an infrared guidance system and costs substantially less, around $59,000. Therefore, the US military can keep both systems, so that neither jamming and electronic warfare system is sufficiently effective. So even if the TOW is left in service, then the Javelin will definitely still be in service for at least 15 years. And what do you think? Is it necessary to develop something new to replace the Javelin, given that Moscow and Beijing clearly want to change the status quo that has developed in the world? Or will this complex be a match for Russian and Chinese tanks? Write your thoughts in the comments below this video. We are interested in your opinion. Don't forget to put the like on the video if you enjoyed it. This will help other people see it. And subscribe to our channel. We're preparing more interesting stories about other modern weapons.